Hello everybody, this is Coding Procedures with Pedro Paulo, and today I'm going to explain a cabbage to you. What is a cabbage? It's a coronary artery bypass graft. These procedures are usually done when the patient has CAD, coronary artery disease. They bypass this occlusion of the vessel from aorta to the coronary artery and provide blood. The purpose of the procedures is to provide blood to the myocardium because the coronary arteries are sick. Okay, there are 4 points that are very important when you code cabbages. Number 1, approach. Approach is open. They do a sternotomy and open the chest of the patient to get to the heart. It's an open approach. You can see the heart. Number 2, root operation, bypass. They bypass the occlusion of the coronary arteries. From the aorta to the coronary artery, they extend the bypass of the device. Number 3, approach, root operation, devices. You need to know what the devices are. Most of the time are autologous. They take a vessel from the radial artery or from the lower extremity, saphenous vein. So that's a device. Every bypass with different device or qualifier should be coded separate. Keep that in mind. And qualifier. What the qualifier specify the vessel bypass from. In this case, is the aorta, right? The bypass is from the aorta to coronary arteries, right? So having this point clear, let's go to the operative report and I'm going to explain to you how to code this cabbage. Okay, procedure in detail. The patient was brought into the operating room and lay supine on the table. After he had been interfaced with the appropriate monitors, general anesthesia endotracheal was induced. Patient is on the general anesthesia already. The patient was then prepped and dropped from chip to bilateral ankles, including the left forearm in the usual steady fashion. Preoperative checkup of the left forearm has revealed good collateral. Feeling from the ulnar with the radial occluded, thus indicating good common arc, and thus left radial arteries was suitable for harvest. Okay, this is your first device. The left radial artery is gonna be harvested. Alright? It's right here. Now, after prepping and dropping the patient from the chin to bilateral ankle, including the left forearm digitary fashion, proper time out was conducted and site identification was performed. And subsequently, incision was made overlying the sternum. A medium sternotomy was performed. We have an approach, right? This is an sternotomy. They're going to open the chest of the patient to get to the heart. So that's approach, open approach. Now, left internal mammary artery was taken down. Simultaneously, left forearm radial artery was harvested. Okay, we had the harvesting of the radial artery. This is that's a device. It was harvested endoscopically, and then simultaneously endoscopic left leg saphenous vein was harvested also. So we have 2 different devices, radial artery, saphenous vein. So those are 2 separate bypasses that we have to code. Subsequent to the harvest, the incision were closed in layers during the course of the procedure, and they close the layer after harvesting. Now the pericardium was open and suspended, back to sternotomy. The aortic and venous and west and retrograde cardioplegia cannulation was performed, and the patient was placed in cardiopulmonary or cardiorespiratory bypass. Patient is already in the bypass, and the patient is ready to start the procedure. Two different devices: left radial, left saphenous vein approach, open approach through sternotomy. Okay, procedure continues. With satisfactory flow, the aorta was cross-cleansed and the heart was arrested using a combination of cardioplegia, antegrade and retrograde. So they already arrested the heart. An initial dose of about 1500 ml was given, and this was followed by intermittent doses given both antegrade and retrograde through the procedure to maintain a good arrest of the heart and protect it. Now, posterior descending artery was first exposed. The right coronary artery was calcified, so they're trying to bypass the right coronary artery, which is already calcified. The posterior descending artery is a distal branch of the right coronary artery. Now, the right coronary artery was calcified along its course all the way to its terminal bifurcation. Even in the posterior descending artery, calcification was noted to be in a spotty fashion. So even the posterior descending artery has a portion that is calcified, but they found a section. Now, arteriotomy on the posterior descending artery was performed in a soft area. The area that was not calcified, they found a soft area where the procedure can be done, the bypass. Now, with a 1.5 probe, was noted to be accommodated in both directions. End radial to posterior descending artery was constructed using the running. Okay, this is the first bypass. Using a device, the radial artery, they bypassing the coronary artery, the calcified section, and doing the bypass to the posterior descending artery. So remember, every device we have to code that every bypass with different device or qualifier we have to code it separate. So that's our first bypass, right? Using the device, the radial artery. We continue. Okay, next, the posterior lateral obtuse marginal. That the obtuse marginal, another coronary vessel. Arteriotomy was performed using the saphenous vein to side obtuse marginal anastomosis was constructed using the 7 prolink. So we have two bypass so far. First one, using the device radial artery to the posterior descending artery. That's the first bypass you're gonna call. Second bypass, they use the saphenous vein, different device, to the obtuse marginal. All right. We have two different devices. We have to code two different bypasses. All right. Let's continue reading. Now, arteriotomy was performed. A saphenous vein side obtuse marginal anastomosis was constructed using the 7 prolink. This graft was then exposed to the diagonal. Okay, this graft was then opposed to the diagonal. So the same saphenous vein, they opposed it to the diagonal. So we have the marginal, the obtuse marginal, and the diagonal, right? Same device to coronary arteries, all right? In total, 3 coronary artery bypass with 2 devices. Okay, we continue reading. This graft was then opposed to the diagonal, and corresponding arteriotomy and venotomies were performed, and the diamond-shaped side-to-side anastomosis was constructed using the 7 prolink. All right, we have those bypasses. Now, next, a slit was made in the left side of the pericardium, and lima The lima is the left internal mammary artery. Remember, it's not a device. It doesn't qualify a device. Why? Because it's attached to its blood supply. It's a pedicle graft. Okay. So the lima was accommodated in the slit on its way to the left anterior descendant. They're going to extend the lima to the left anterior descendant. Now the left anterior descendant was exposed, arteriotomy was performed, and the lima was extended to a left anastomose to a left anterior descending with using a running 7-0 proline. All right. So we have four bypasses. Right. We have posterior descending artery, obtuse marginal, diagonal, and lima. All right. All right. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, the procedure continues. Now, two step incisions were made in the ascending aorta. Remember, that's a qualifier. The qualifier identifies the vessel bypass from. All right, no bypass to. We have posterior descending artery, we have obtuse marginal, we have diagonal. In this case, is the artery bypass from ascending aorta as a qualifier. Now, two step incisions were made in the ascending aorta and enlarged using the 4 millimeters punch. Okay, two proximal anastomosis were constructed between the proximal end of the saphenous vein graft. This is important. All right, let me highlight it. Okay, two proximal anastomoses were constructed between the proximal end of the saphenous vein graft, which is the device, and the side of the aorta, and the proximal end of the radial artery. All right, you have the two devices right here. That's cool. We got everything now. We have the qualifier, which is the aorta, and we already have the anastomosis of the radial artery and the saphenous vein graft. All right. All right. The patient was given the terminal dose of one retrograde followed by the antegrade cardioplagia, during the which the derain was performed. Following this, aortic cross clamp was removed, and then the heart was noted to be assumed spontaneous coordinated contractile activity. Temporary V pacing wire were placed. Blade drain were placed in the left chest. The right. Okay. All this is the procedure is over. They're just closing the left chest. They place the drain. You know. They after adequate period warning during the which time the V pacing wire was placed. They closed the sternum, the sternotomy. The patient was successfully weaned off the cardiopulmonary bypass. Okay, he was weaned off. The weaning period is over here. Okay, without any problem. He was disconnected from the cardiopulmonary bypass with satisfactory hemodynamic, good lever function. Okay, they did a TE and an echocardiogram. Hepatic was reversed using protamine, and then okay, all this is closure, and that's it. The patient was transferred to the recovery room in stable condition. Okay, so we have the procedure concluded here with 4 coronary arteries bypasses, 2 devices, radial artery, saphenous vein graft, and we have the pedicle graft, which is the lima, right? Why it doesn't qualify as a device? Because it's attached to its blood supply. All right. I'm gonna provide the codes so you can practice, you can read the report, and then you can review the whole procedure slowly if you want. Let me let's go to the next slide to show you and explain the last result of the procedures. Okay, let me explain the ICD-10 PCS code here. The first coronary artery bypass, as we read before, they use the radial artery, the device radial artery, which is autologous because it was taken from the patient, and they connected it to the posterior descending artery. That was the first bypass. We have it right here. Bypass of coronary artery, one artery from aorta with autologous arterial tissue. Autologous is the radial artery, and it was open approach. So that's the first coronary artery bypass. The second coronary artery bypass, as we read before, it was the saphenous vein graft to the obtuse marginal and diagonal, right? So we have a bypass coronary artery, two arteries, one device, saphenous vein graft to two coronary arteries, marginal and posterior lateral, obtuse marginal and diagonal, right? So we have bypass coronary artery, two arteries from aorta with autologous venous tissue. Why autologous? Because it was harvested from the patient, right? That bypass, that device was harvested from the patient to two coronary arteries from aorta, which is the qualifier, was open approach. Now we have the lima. The lima, we have to call it separate. It doesn't qualify as a device. All right, we explained it before. It's attached to the blood supply. All right, so we have the bypass coronary artery, one artery, lima, to a left anterior descending. Now the harvesting, we have to call each harvesting separate. The left radial artery was harvested endoscopically. We had to code it, and the saphenous vein graft, or the saphenous vein, was harvested endoscopically either also. So we had to code those two harvested, right? Radial, saphenous. So we have the codes right here. Now the cardiopulmonary bypass, we have to code it also separate, and then they perform a TE. I coded too, the TE, and then here is how you code this scenario. I know it's not simple. We have multiple coronary bypasses, but you can review it. You can go step by step and understand it. You have questions, leave your comment, send me a question, and I'll be more than happy to clear the scenario again for you. Thank you very much for watching my videos, and if you like it, subscribe, thumbs up, and I see you in the next video. Thank you very much.